first question that I should ask you to do is explain to folks what you mean by this. Arguments for a colorblind America. What do you mean when you say that?
So a lot of people equate colorblindness to I don't see race or to pretending not to see race. I think that's a big mistake. We all see race, right? And we're all capable of being racially biased, so we should all be self-aware to that possibility. My argument is not for that. My argument is that we should try our very best to treat people without regard to race, both in our personal lives and our public policy.
Of course.
And the reason I wrote this book, thank you. The reason I wrote this book is because in the past 10 years, it has become very popular to, in the name of anti-racism, teach a kind of philosophy to our children and in general that says your race is everything. Right? And I think that is the wrong way to fight racism, and that's why I wrote this book at this time.
I'm sorry, baby.
Yeah.
Can I just point out that there is a reason for that? You know, when I went to school, getting any information about anyone's race was not taught. No history, there was no black history, none of those things were taught. And here in America, 100 years ago when I was a younger woman, that's how people saw you. That's how they judged you. So.
All right, guys, so we got to talk about the race hustling, cackling hands on The View, who are going to have a meltdown over a black man going on their show and saying, hey, I believe that we should work our way towards a colorblind society, okay, which is the exact opposite of what the race hustlers of America want to do today, okay? They want our society to be solely focused on race. In fact, they are obsessed with race because a lot of these people, like, you know, the people on The View, they are cultural Marxists, okay? They've essentially replaced the class struggle that defines Marxism/communism with the race struggle, okay? Now, the new oppressed class is based off your race. It's not based off your socioeconomic status. It's based off your race. So basically, if you're not a straight white Christian male, somehow, some way, you are oppressed, okay? And where you land on the victimhood totem pole is a determinant of how many special rights and privileges and government handouts you should get compared to others, okay? In an attempt to have equality. Equal outcome is literally an anti-American concept. It is anti-capitalist. It is pro-Marxist, pro-communism, and quite honestly, it never works. Okay, this is why it didn't work in the Soviet Union, because when you distribute capital to people who aren't productive, okay, or they don't know how to allocate capital efficiently, then yeah, you're gonna have some problems, right? It's gonna be hard for you to have a good economy. Everybody ends up poor. Okay, this is why China realized that pretty quickly, and then they decided to adopt at least some forms of capitalism in their economy, okay, because they understand that capitalism is supreme, is dominant when it comes to being able to improve the quality of life for those who are rich and for those who are poor, okay? But again, the conversation here is going to be about solving racial inequalities and what is the best way to do that. Is the best way to do that to focus on race or to focus on socioeconomic status? Now, this guy, Coleman Hughes, who, again, I would describe as a conservative, he says that he's independent, okay? He's going to say, look, I don't think the best way to solve racial inequalities is with focusing on race. I think that we should focus on class, and that is how we should solve racial inequalities. And The View is going to disagree, right? They're going to say, no. We think that race should be the focus because race is the primary determinant of your class and how well you're doing in America. Basically, if you're white, then you're better off than everybody else, okay? I mean, that's essentially their argument, and this is going to revolve around MLK and his ideas, okay? Martin Luther King, and whether or not he actually really wanted a colorblind society. What was his actual goal? What did he want to do, okay, when it came to civil rights and racial equality? So I want to react to it because, of course, when you have a black man that is basically saying, look, we need to stop all the race hustling. And, of course, according to the left, if you come in between them and the race hustle, that makes you a tool of the right, okay, and a pawn and not really black, which is basically what they're going to, you know, say to this guy simply because he disagrees with them when it comes to the issue of race. So without further ado, let's get into it.
Country, right? We have very different cultures all living together in one country, so I'm not going to deny that, but I think I view this notion of a colorblind society similar to the idea of a peaceful society, which is to say it's an ideal, it's a North Star. And the point is not that we're ever going to get there, we're not going to touch it, but we have to know when we're going forward and when we're going backwards. And we're going backwards when we're doing woke kindergarten in San Francisco. You didn't hear about this story?
No, but
wait, because I want to get to the part of the book.
Okay,
You believe that public policies that address socioeconomic differences would be better at benefiting disadvantaged groups, and that race-based policies often hurt the very people they're trying to help. What are some examples of policies that would be better at reducing racial disparities?
So my overall argument is that class, socioeconomics, is a better proxy for disadvantage. We all want to help the disadvantaged, and the question is, how do we identify them, right? The default right now in a lot of areas of policy is to use Black and Hispanic identity as a proxy for disadvantage. And my argument is that you actually get a better picture of who needs help by looking at socioeconomics and income. That picks out people in a more accurate way.
Well,
right? So,
not my question, but when you say that socioeconomics picks out people in a better way than race, when you do look at the socioeconomics, you see the huge disparity between white households and Black households. You see the huge disparity between white households and Hispanic households. So your argument, and I've read your book twice because I wanted to give it a chance, your argument that race has no place in that equation is really fundamentally flawed, in my opinion.
Well, there's two separate questions. One is whether each racial group is socioeconomically the same. That I agree with you. They're not.
Yeah,
Of
they're
course.
not, and the
The
stats
question
show
is-
that.
But of course, I agree with that fully. The question is, how do you address that in the way that actually targets poverty the best?
Great.
And what Martin Luther King wrote in his book Why We Can't Wait is he called it, we need a Bill of Rights for the disadvantaged. And he said, yes, we should address racial inequality. Yes, we should address the legacy of slavery. But the way to do that is on the basis of class. And that will disproportionately target Blacks and Hispanics because they're disproportionately poor. But it will be doing so in a way that also helps the white poor, in a way that addresses poverty as the thing to be addressed.
That part is true, but as you are a student of Dr. King, I'm not only a student of Dr. King, I know his daughter, Bernice, right? So I'm going to get to my question.
Go ahead, go right ahead.
I think the premise is fundamentally flawed. You claim that color blindness was the goal of the civil rights movement, based upon Dr. King's I Have a Dream speech, content of character versus the color of skin. Bernice, Dr. King's daughter, points out that 4 years after giving that speech, actually, Dr. King also said this: a society that has done something special against the Negro for hundreds of years must now do something special for Negroes. He also said in 1968, it was about less than a week before he was assassinated, this country never stops to realize that they owe a people kept in slavery for 244 years. So rather than class, he did write about that earlier on. Right before his death, he made the argument for racial equality and racial reparations. And so your argument for color blindness, I think, is something that the right has co-opted. And so many in the Black community, if I'm being honest with you, because I want to be, believe that you are being used as a pawn by the right and that you're a charlatan of sorts.
He's not a Republican.
So how do you...
He's
who am I
never
being
voted for a
used as?
Republican.
You've said that you're a conservative.
No, no.
No, you did. You actually said that in the podcast that you did 2 weeks ago.
I said I was a conservative.
not a-
Yes,
He's not.
yes, you did.
If-
So,
if
but
you're
my
familiar
question
with
to
him, he's
you,
not a Republican.
my question to you is, how do you respond to those critics?
Okay,
that
Let's give him.
believe-
Let him
let him
so
answer. He has
first
a
thing I think it's very important. The quote that you just pointed out about doing something special for the Negro. That's from the book Why We Can't Wait that I just mentioned.
Yes.
A couple paragraphs later, he lays out exactly what that something special was.
Yes.
And it was the Bill of Rights for the Disadvantaged, a broad class-based policy.
But he also says
okay?
you must include race.
No, he didn't. He says it's
Yes, he does.
Okay, well, everyone should go read the book Why We Can't Wait. Let's.
Yeah, and it's a good thing that, you do have some people that have actually read it. And what Coleman is saying is 100% right. Okay, now, what specifically did MLK call for, right? What did he actually really want? Okay, now, some people have misinterpreted what MLK was saying, to say that, well, he wanted racial reparations. He wanted special things done for black people that wouldn't be done for other people, okay? And that's not necessarily 100% true, in the sense that I can't say that he would not have agreed with reparations just for black people, but that's not what he actually called for. What he actually really called for was universal basic income, okay? And the reason why he called for that is because Martin Luther King realized that, hey, I can't be a racialist if I'm actually going to achieve the goals that I'm claiming that I'm trying to achieve, because racialism is divisive, okay? So he actually really became more of a socialist, and he pushed more socialist policies in order to achieve the goal, because he knew that, again, racialism was divisive, and white people would never get on board with it, right? So this is what he said in his book, quote, "I am now convinced that the simplest approach will prove to be the most effective. The solution to poverty is to abolish directly, by a now widely discussed measure, the guaranteed income." Okay, now, why did he push the guaranteed income? Well, because what he started to do is that he started to try to get people on board with civil rights and more economic opportunity for black people through trying to get the white poor working class on board, because he acknowledged that, hey, the white poor working class are also disadvantaged, and they face disadvantages because of slavery, just like black people have. For example, he also wrote this. He said, quote, "Many poor whites were the derivative victims of slavery. As long as labor was cheapened by the involuntary servitude of the black man, the freedom of white labor, especially in the South, was little more than a myth. It was free only to bargain from the depressed base imposed by slavery upon the whole labor market, nor did this derivative bondage end when formal slavery gave way to the de facto slavery of discrimination. To this day, the poor white also suffer deprivation and humiliations of poverty, if not of color. They are chained by the weight of discrimination. Though its badge of degradation does not mark them, it corrupts their lives, frustrates their opportunities, and withers their education. In one sense, it is more evil for them because it has confused so many by prejudice that they have supported their own oppressor." So basically, what he was trying to do is to have poor whites realize that, hey, you know, your plight is not against the Negro, because the Negro is poor just like you. The enemy is actually the rich, right? The enemy is the elite, okay? Martin Luther King was a socialist, and towards the end of his life, he pushed for government socialist programs, like, for example, a universal jobs program. He pushed for universal basic income. That is what he wanted, right? And he saw socialism as the means of achieving racial equality, the colorblind society, because he knew that he could not advocate for special rights and privileges just for black people and to build a majority coalition in this country that would actually support that, right? He knew that wasn't possible. So what he did was that he actually used socialist ideologies and pushed for socialist policies that he believed that poor white working class people would get on board with in order to achieve racial equality, to achieve what he wanted for black people in America. That's actually a more accurate description of what MLK wanted and what he pushed for. Okay, so what Coleman is saying is correct. And I'm not saying that what Sunny is saying doesn't have some merits to it. I'm not saying that MLK would not have supported reparations, but what he actually called for as the reparations, the check, was not a check specifically just to black people or even descendants of slaves, just for them. No, he actually called for universal basic income. He wanted all poor people to get some form of reparations, right? This is actually what he wanted. And the reason why he did that is because he knew that would disproportionately benefit black people, okay? Because if black people are disproportionately poor and underserved, underprivileged, then if you redirect funds, capital to the poor, then again, by definition, black people are going to benefit more. I mean, like, if you take a look at our current welfare programs, I think it's 43% of whites are on it, 23% of Hispanics, and 23% of black people. So black people are overrepresented based off the population. I think Hispanics are right around their percentage of the population, and whites are underrepresented, right? So black people actually disproportionately benefit from welfare today, okay? I mean, the group that disproportionately benefits from government handouts the most are black people today, disproportionately, okay? When you look at it as a group, but see, again, what the race hustlers want, they don't want everybody to get these handouts from the government. No, they just want handouts for just, a special group of people, just one group of people, just us, right? Just what are you going to do just for us? But if you consider all the anti-poverty programs that we've had since MLK, like, for example, Lyndon B. Johnson's The Great Society program, and again, the expansion of the welfare system that, we've had, you could argue that welfare is the most beneficial towards black people. Okay, and the argument for welfare is that, well, it helps people lift themselves out of poverty, which generally speaking, okay, yes, we definitely are not living in the type of poverty that we were living in before welfare. When FDR created the first welfare program, I think 73% of the country was in poverty, right? And clearly and obviously, yes, you need some social safety net, right? Some social safety net is good to help people pick themselves up. However, the problem is that, again, we've expanded our social safety net, but yet you still have the race hustlers boohoo, whining, and crying about black people being disproportionately underserved, right? Even though, again, as I've outlined, black people disproportionately benefit from welfare and some of these government programs that are designed to help people get out of poverty. The problem is that functionally, a lot of people aren't necessarily motivated to get out of poverty or to get off of the system because they would much rather stay on the system than to work, okay? And that is my biggest problem with the idea that we need to expand the social safety net, that we need more welfare, more of these anti-poverty programs, is that, well, you're not incentivizing people to work. You're not incentivizing people to actually contribute to society. And when you continue to expand the social safety net to the point where, again, there is no point to work because you want equality, ultimately, at the end of the day, what you're going to have is everybody's going to be equally poor and dependent on the government, right? You're going to eventually run out of somebody else's money to give to people who are the least productive, right? I personally believe that if you are on welfare, okay, today, if you can't climb up into the middle class, considering the social safety net that we have, then you're probably in that position because of what you have done, right? The fact that maybe you're just not productive enough as a citizen to warrant being in the middle class, right? I truly do believe that. And that comes from somebody who came from Eastern North Carolina, grew up in a one-stop-like town where there weren't many opportunities, and my family was still able to climb up out of that situation, coming from a single wide trailer, okay, to, being comfortably in the middle class through taking advantage of the opportunities that are there, right? Even in parts of the country where there aren't much opportunity. It's 100% possible if you put in the work and take advantage of what we have today, which is more than enough for people that actually want to work, that apply themselves, that try to learn skills, and that make a genuine attempt to move up and to get off of the system, okay? I personally don't believe as a capitalist that equality among everybody is a good thing. We should not be striving for equality or equal outcome. We should strive for equal opportunity, even though I know that's not possible either, okay? And the reason why that's not possible is because it's not compatible with capitalism, okay? And capitalism, again, creates inequality when you have a class of people that have more resources than others, more connections, more of a network than others, then yeah, you're not going to be able to achieve equal opportunity. But that doesn't mean that you shouldn't strive for it, okay? Equal opportunity is a much better goal than equal outcome, in the sense that we should, yes, have a social safety net that allows for people, if you're poor, to have an equal opportunity to become middle class and to climb the socioeconomic ladder. But obviously, you're not going to have the same opportunities as somebody born into a rich family. That's never going to happen. But you do have the opportunity to climb the ladder, at the very least, to get to the middle class, maybe even the upper middle class, if you put in the work. Yes, we should strive for that type of system that allows people to lift themselves up out of poverty and to get that opportunity. That's what we should strive for. You should have a society where we have inequality, right? Inequality is actually good. Inequality is actually more aligned with human nature, okay? There's a reason why throughout all of society, we've had hierarchy among humans, right? There's been kings and then there's been peasants. Well, there's a reason for that, okay? Because in human nature, we don't want to be equal to each other, right? I don't want to be equal to my neighbor, right? I don't want to have the same things that they have, right? I want to be able to put in the work and to accumulate more than the next person accumulates, right? If I put in the work, if I work hard at it, if I do something that's beneficial for society, okay? If I create some good, some service, some product that is good for people, I want to reap the benefits. That is what motivates people to improve the quality of life of the people around them is through inequality. Okay, again, that is why communism doesn't work, right? Everywhere it's been tried, it doesn't work. Okay, because when you make everybody equal, right? They all get equal outcome. What is the equal outcome? Well, they're all equally poor, right? You all become poor. Okay, and again, that is my issue with MLK and his ideology, is that I don't agree with his socialism. Okay, now I do agree that in the long term, yes, we should strive for colorblindness in the sense that we judge people based off merit, not their skin color, okay, or their race. But again, that's not what the race hustlers want, right? They don't want that, okay? So again, you know, personally, for me, I think that the conversation around equality is kind of childish, right? Because I think that equality is a childish idea, right? We've never had equality. We will never have true equality. And quite honestly, we should not strive for that. That's not good for society as a whole. Inequality actually really is what's best for everybody, okay? Because even in a system like capitalism that does promote and reward inequality, it makes people at the bottom, it makes their quality of life better, even if they don't have as much as the people at the top, right? Even if there are disproportional benefits to people at the top, the people at the bottom also benefit because of the progress in the innovations that come out of capitalism and inequality.
Let's not get sidetracked by that.
Yeah.
I don't think I've been co-opted by anyone. I've only voted twice, both for Democrats. Although I'm an independent, I would vote for a Republican, probably a non-Trump Republican if they were compelling. I don't think there's any evidence I've been co-opted by anyone, and I think that that's an ad hominem tactic people use to not address really the important conversations we're having here. And I think it's better, and it would be better for everyone if we stuck to the topics rather than make it about me with no evidence that I've been co-opted.
I want to give you
Facts. Again, that's the shame here. She can't have an intellectual conversation about whether or not we should be engaged in class warfare or race warfare, right? We can't have an intellectual conversation about it without her basically accusing this guy of not being black, right? Because he believes in, you know, having a colorblind society, or you know, basically having a society based off merit, and that, you know, we can solve our race problems, you know, with socioeconomics, right? This is what he's arguing. But again, she can't engage in that debate without race hustling, right? Saying that, well, you're a token, and, you know, black people see you as somebody that's a sellout and yada, yada, yada. This is what they do, right? This is what they do. Okay. And it's a shame that, you know, this is how dumbed down our political conversations have been. You can't disagree as a black person, even if, I mean, this guy says he's independent. He said he voted for Democrats, right? I don't even think he's ever voted for a Republican. And he's certainly not a Trumper. But again, his loyalty to black folks, right, is being questioned, right? Simply because he doesn't believe in the race hustling. Absolutely amazing. Absolutely amazing.
the opportunity to respond to the,
I appreciate
the criticism.
I appreciate it. There's no evidence that I've been co-opted by anyone. I have an independent podcast. I work for CNN as an analyst. I write for the Free Press. I'm independent in all of these endeavors, and no one is paying me to say what I'm saying. I'm saying it because I feel it.
Alyssa.
Again, the irony here, hilarious irony, is that The View has been co-opted by the left, right? She's accusing this guy, Coleman, of being co-opted by the right because he doesn't want to go along with her race hustling. But yet her race hustling in and of itself is evidence that she's been co-opted by the left, right? What she's doing is pushing leftist talking points. Why? Because she gets paid by the leftist Democrat establishment. Again, that's the irony here, right? She's accused this guy of being co-opted by the right because he believes in colorblindness, but she's being co-opted by the left. Again, it's amazing. Absolutely amazing. So I love the fact that he, calmly put Sunny Hostin in her place, schooled her on the fact that, hey, you know, these ad hominem attacks are unnecessary, right? Let's engage in the debate without you basically trying to insinuate that, you know, I'm not actually really for black people, or that black people see me in a certain way, or that I've been co-opted because I have opinions that you disagree with. So, again, that was a pretty amazing moment on The View. Let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a Black conservative perspective. Peace.